Hi everyone, it's me. Welcome to Forager, part 10. So, I'm going to have to preface this video with a question. Have you ever forgotten to press your microphone button when you start recording? Because that is what happened to me with this video. I have an entire session, which I am now post-commentating over many weeks after it was even recorded, because about 45 minutes ago, I was checking and realised I hadn't actually recorded my audio commentary with this video. And it just didn't even occur to me. I didn't even realise it. And I've been upset for the last 20-25 minutes trying to figure out what to do to rectify this issue. And I realised, you know what? Who gives a fuck? Let's just turn it into a fucking podcast. Why the hell not? We'll keep the whole hour session. I'll do a commentary and I'll add it on and I'll just throw up the whole fucking hour. I don't even know what I'm going to call this video, but hey ho, it's going to be the entire Forager session, the entire hour that I would normally record and then cut down to less than 20 minutes. It's weird too, because this follows up one of my shortest videos in this series. The last one was only 16 minutes long, which is so short compared to the rest of them. Considering that each of these sessions is an hour cut down, that is a really short amount of time to pull out of an hour's worth of footage. But now you're going to get to see an entire session, unedited, with my audio over the top. So that's good, I guess, if that's something you enjoy. If you enjoy my annoying ass voice. So, there have been a lot of things I've actually wanted to talk about, realistically, since the year started, and haven't really gotten a chance to because I haven't really recorded anything yet where I could talk about my life or things that have been going on. Normally that would happen in my sort of Let's Play videos. I haven't done one of those yet. Forager's kind of one of those series, but it's not really. It's more of just, I wanted to play it because it's fun, and I wanted to sort of share the experience of breaking the game right from the get-go, because when I originally played it, it took me 60 hours of playing before I finally realized I could actually break the game like that, and that was by the time I already got to the end pretty much. So I wanted to do it right from the get-go and see how far I could take it. I only have 2 other videos after this one, both of which are fine. The commentary is there, so expect those at some point. The next one will be back down to normal size, 20-ish minutes. The one after that is 22 minutes. That one is also raw. I decided to do that one as just recording the game straight without editing, and recorded it for about 22 minutes, and the whole thing will be used. So instead of recording an hour and then cutting it down, I haven't got anything past that at the moment. I've been sort of waiting to get through this backlog of footage before carrying on recording. So yeah, that's all the sort of information you need to know about this, why it's like this video. It's actually, I also need to say, it's the 1st of March today, so I'm not even sure how long it's been since I actually recorded this footage, or since I last recorded anything with, you know, commentary like this. Probably not since Subnautica, if I'm being honest. I never usually do stuff like this. I guess maybe the Far Cry campaign videos were kind of like this, the first one at least. But not really, if we're being honest. I wasn't really prepared to talk about my life. I was just enjoying the game. Speaking of Far Cry, that was something I did. Far Cry I finished. That's done now. I still have one more video for that, actually, another multiplayer session, which is a bunch of footage that I've clipped together, and I've got to edit through at some point. But that's something that will get done eventually too. I'm just trying to get through the backlog, that's all. Forager, like I already said, is just a game I'm playing for a laugh, just a little bit of fun, you know, just play an hour, do what I can do in that hour, and then cut it down as much as possible. I try not to talk unless it's absolutely necessary. I'm not trying to, like, you know, talk about my life and stuff like I did with other series I've done. So, but yeah, speaking about my life, I mean, not much really happens, as you know, but in regards to, like, games, I have picked up a few since the year started. I picked up recently, very recently, I picked up 2 games. What were they? Oh man, I'm gonna have to like remind myself what the hell they were. Oh, that's right. I got a game on PS2 which I had no idea existed called Max Play, right? Now, fucking weird thing that this, right? I didn't even know it existed, and I'm collecting compilation discs, right? There are still some really expensive ones I don't own, like SNK collection, which is extremely expensive. There's also like a Capcom collection, a Konami collection. There's lots of compilation discs for consoles that I just don't own. But this Max Play disc is like an old PS2 disc which has 10 arcade games on it, but they're ROM hacks. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It's apparently, for PS2, it's one of only several unlicensed games for the PlayStation 2, and it's the only unlicensed game on the GameCube version. So the GameCube version of that compilation disc is the only GameCube game that's unlicensed. And it shows. It's such a weird case, right? The case has an advertisement on it for a website, which I don't think exists anymore. And I imagine it was a gaming forum, where a bunch of people talked and like played ROMs and made like ROM hacks together. And essentially what they did is they took 10 of their ROM hacks of old arcade games, like just basically like modified versions, and put them on a disc. And I don't even think they had a real publisher. I think it was published by the person who sponsored their website at the time. And I have no idea how they publish so many that it's not like a completely rare hyper collectible, but it exists, and I checked it out, and it's so weird. It's so unbelievably weird. It's got like Space Invaders on it, but it's different. Like, it's hard to explain it without actually showing you. So one day I may have to make a video on that if I get the chance to record things other than the PS4 again. That might be one of the first things I go to is a gaming shenanigans for that Max Play disc. But yeah, that was one I picked up. There were others which for some reason have just floated out of my head. I've got a cup of tea with me also as well, just, you know, switching between topics really quickly. My cat is also sitting with me, as she tends to, and past me is busy flying around the map here, just doing what needs to be done, as he did. I should address, actually, the reason that I haven't bothered to just edit this down anyway and then post-commentate a shorter version is because I use audio cues in this series, so where I talk is where I cut. So if I'm not talking, that gets cut. If I'm talking, that gets kept in usually, unless I'm, like, I have two tones of voice which I use. I have a higher tone, like a louder tone, which is the indication that I should use that, and a lower tone where it's sort of like a more mumbling to myself tone, so I know, okay, this isn't really, I don't have to keep it. I could, but I don't have to. Otherwise, if I'm not talking, that's moments that can be completely cut, and that's how I indicate what should be cut out and what should be kept. Without that, on this session, it would be such a pain in the ass to edit it, because I would have to go by visuals alone rather than the sound. I'd have to basically see the whole session and see what looks to be important enough to keep in terms of clips and what doesn't. So me opening this shop right now and doing what I'm doing now, is that important enough to keep, or do I get rid of it? Having to do that for an hour session would take so long, you don't even understand. It's literally just easier for me to keep the entire session and do this post-commentary thing. So that's why I haven't bothered to edit this down, or why I've decided against doing that and doing this commentary thing instead. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna have a drink of my cup of tea, actually. Yeah, that's good. That's a good cup of tea. Do you know, I realised I was complaining about tea not even a year ago, last summer, because our kettle at the time was like fucking with our tea. There was like a metallic taste in the tea that I didn't like. It was making me ill, and I still never figured out what it was, but as soon as we got a new kettle, it disappeared, and now my tea tastes absolutely splendid. So, and in case you're wondering what cup of tea, in case you're wondering what tea bags I use PG Tips. That's my favoured tea bag. So, Earl Grey, hot. Oh man, we got to talk about that, right? We got 50 more minutes of this to go. Okay. I have been watching a lot of shows that I have not talked about on video. I only know of a few off by heart that I know I haven't mentioned on video. There may be others that I think I might have mentioned before but haven't. So I'll just go with from the ones that I haven't talked about, that I know I haven't, and then we'll go to the ones that I'm not too sure of. So for starters, most recent, I've been watching Star Trek Picard. Fucking phenomenal series. I love it. It's amazing. I am not a big Trekkie myself. I've never watched the original Star Trek series outside of a few random episodes here and there. And also the Next Generation as well. So I'm not like completely in the know. I think I watched the movies once upon a time, but I don't really remember them. And I mean the older movies, not the newer J.J. Abrams ones or whoever makes them. So I don't really have that much of an affliction with Star Trek, but I am enjoying Picard. Either way, I'm enjoying the drama, I'm enjoying the story, and I'm just eager to see what happens next. Really, as of right now, we're on 6 episodes in, and I mean they've just what just happened in the 6th episode? Oh yeah, they got to the Borg cube and rescued that girl, and Picard and the girl got off the Borg ship. And that's where the episode ended. So, as of right now, at this place in time when this is being recorded, we have no idea what happens next. We don't know what happens in the next episode or the finale. You know, if I watch this back in like a year from now and I'm thinking back, I'm going to be like, man, I could have never seen that coming. Yeah, that's the crazy thing about time. And that's another thing. I keep thinking about time lately. Like that's a huge psychological fuckery in my head at the moment. Like I keep thinking about the passage of time because I have like no concept of time anymore. Like I do so little that time basically means nothing to me. You know, a month goes by in what feels like a week. You know, less than that in fact. Like it feels like yesterday was January. I honestly hate it so much, but there's nothing I can do about it. How do you slow down time? You don't. You just don't. You know, time is what it is. It's not a controllable form of existence. You don't control what time does. You know, you can control your existence in the moment, but you can't control what's going to happen in the future or what's happened in the past, because what's happened in the past has already happened, and what's going to happen in the future is unknown. You don't know what's going to happen, you know. So you're stuck in your moment forever until the day you die. You know, and that's a crazy thought. It's a true thought, really. It's not crazy. It's just true. Man, I don't think I've ever gotten this fucking deep and psychological in videos of mine. But like, this is the kind of thought processes I do have, though. You know, whether I've talked about it or not, this is the kind of thing I think about often. Because for me, like, especially as time goes on, it becomes more and more apparent to me just how important it is. You know, time goes on and months go by, weeks go by. I go on my DMs, right? And I see that the last time I spoke to a person I've known for like 10 years was 4 months ago. And I go, hello, how are you doing, man? And they speak to me as if we spoke yesterday, because they're the same. Most of us just don't really care about time because, you know, if we're friends with someone and we talk a lot when we do talk, it doesn't matter how much time passes. We will just carry on from where we left off. But it's still weird because you know that it's been so long since you last spoke. You know, I messaged someone yesterday who I haven't spoken to in 6 months. You know, and they haven't answered back yet, but I know that when they do, we will end up talking for the next few days before we just end up not talking again for who knows how long. I messaged a couple days ago, I messaged Bruised Weasel. I think I actually mentioned her recently in something. I can't remember what. Oh, no, that was it. I mentioned her during the 5-year anniversary, channel anniversary video, and I was watching that again a week ago. But I messaged her yesterday on Twitter because she actually has a Twitter, and I didn't realise it. And I haven't gotten an answer back yet because she doesn't seem to be very active on Twitter, like posts once every few months. But hopefully she'll answer back because, you know, I kind of want to speak to her again. But it just comes back to that whole thing about time, you know. It's such a fickle thing. It just sort of passes by. It just flows through your hand like grains of sand. I'm going to focus on this tea for a minute because it's starting to get warm and I don't want to just keep talking and forget about it until it's cold. I hope you guys won't mind anyway. Consider this more of a podcasty episode, in fact, actually. You know, to be fair, I don't think I actually made all that much progress in this episode. Or I might have. I can't be completely sure. But if that's something that anyone actually cares about, rather than just the commentary in this episode, then don't watch it. Yeah, no, I would honestly suggest if you don't care about, you know, what's actually happening in the video, just leave this video open on another tab and just listen. I'm saying this 15 minutes in, you know, like I should have said this right at the beginning, but you know, at least it's been said now. So, but yeah, like I don't know, it's weird. It's really fucking weird. The months have gone by so quickly too that like I've just thoughts have come and gone. You know, I consider things that I want to talk about in videos and then they just vanish from my head and you know they never come back up again. When I get a chance like this, a rare opportunity where I've got a long time to just sit down and chat, I'm just basically spending the whole time trying to think of things that I would have spoken about months ago, but just didn't have a chance to, and now they're just kind of gone. So, but I don't know, it's, why don't I talk about a couple other games, right? Because I've been talking some psychological, deep fucking trauma bullshit. I picked up a couple PS4 games, I think it was last month, early February. I got Medieval on PS4. I got to do a gaming shenanigans on that at some point. And I also picked up Jurassic World Evolution, which I'm not going to do videos on until I've gotten the DLC for it. As soon as I've got the DLC for that, including the season pass, I will jump on there and I will start up a game and I will do some game shenanigans, and then I will actually properly play it outside of the gaming shenanigans videos. But I think I'm going to start with Medieval for that. So, good stuff. Good stuff. This is a good cup of tea. I'll tell you another thing. Another thing I was doing very recently. I got quite a lot of old clips recorded on the PS4, stuff that I never turned into videos, and there were a few that I was able to chop down to very, very small clips, like 2, 3, 4 minutes. I've only got 3 so far. I'm trying to make more, but what I want to do is build like a compilation of clips from different games, and then have a sort of, you know, there's too much shit on my hard drive kind of thing, like the Pixelate guys used to do. With just sort of a compilation of various different games being played. Hopefully that'll work out at some point in the future, but not any time too soon, I don't think. With only 3 clips recorded and not really anything else to use for clips, it might take a while. But as long as I keep those clips I do have, it should be, you know, it should be easy enough to put it all together when the time comes. I hope. I hope. Pardon me. Jesus Christ. Oh, God. What else? What else have I been doing? I mean, you know, I really haven't done that much outside of Far Cry 5. Did I play anything else outside of Far Cry 5? Oh, I finished off Yooka-Laylee and Impossible Lair. That was something else I did as well. God, did I really I did part 3 of that so long ago. I recorded part 3 of the Impossible Lair back in November when my brother was here. That was for my birthday, and it was fun. It was genuinely fun, but I didn't want to record any more outside of that, and I was so preoccupied with other stuff that I didn't really consider going back to play more of it for a while, and it got to like the end of December before I finally picked it back up and continued, even though in that video I was almost sort of towards the end of the game. But now, as of about a week ago, less than that, about 3 or 4 days ago, I have every tonic unlocked and bought. I have every single bee. and I have about 160 of 200 twit coins, so doing the rest of those is just going to be a slow process of going through each of the levels. I have actually, as well, about 3 days ago, for the first time, watched the Impossible Lair, like, in full on YouTube, to see what it looks like. It is insane. It is absolutely insane. I couldn't have even guessed how bad it actually was in terms of complication. It, like, wow. I've seen some hard challenges in some video games, but that is ridiculous. It's an actual literal gauntlet that makes you on edge constantly. There's barely any places to actually sit and catch your breath. They give you places throughout the course of the Impossible Lair for you to catch your breath, but there's so many, like, moments where it's clear that if you make a single mistake, you're taking a hit and losing a bee. And I know it's got to be designed that way on purpose, but holy shit, the amount of times you've got to fight capital B as well, and he only gets harder and harder every time you fight him. And, like, it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. You know, like, you fight him once, you have to go through, like, 3 or 4 minutes worth of trials, you know, and take as little hits as possible. Then you've got to fight him again, and he has even more moves that he can possibly hit you with if you're not careful. Then you've got to go through the trials again and then get another fight with him, and he has even more moves. You've got to fight him a total of 5 times. And when you finally beat him, like, get to the 5th time and actually beat him, then you have to escape and go through another trial with a time limit, and you still can lose bees during that as well. So say you get down to 1B by the time you beat capital B, you've got to get through the last trial with basically 3 hits. The bee, Yuka, or 2 hits I should say, the bee and Yuka, that's it. Or Laylee, sorry, the bee and Laylee. So yeah, like, holy shit, that was, like, it looked like a pain in the arse, and something that I could never do on video, ever, in a million years. Like, the moment I watched that video and finished it, that was the deciding factor for me. I am never Let's Playing Impossible Lair, ever, in a million years, because if I did, there's no way I'd be able to finish it, ever, on video. I can't. Like, one day I will beat the Impossible Lair, I know I will, but not on video. And when I do, I'm probably never going to want to beat it again. Like, people keep saying, I keep seeing people say that once you've beaten it once, you can beat it easier the next time around, and it just gets easier and easier as you play it. But if you play it, and then you don't play for a year or 2, and then you go back and play the game again, you'll be back at square one, basically. And that's what most people are going to do. That's what I'd do. So if I played it and beat it on the file I've got now, and then I decided to Let's Play it 2 years down the line, which would probably be the way I'd do it, there's no way I'd be able to do a Let's Play, because it's so complicated and so difficult to do that Impossible Lair part. The levels themselves, like, all the way through the game, every level of all 20 levels, they're all great. They're all amazingly built and easy enough to complete. I mean, there are some tough challenges in some of those levels, but they're all great, and I could easily play them all on video just fine. But that last Impossible Lair, no way. No way. I mean, if I'm lucky, and I just so happen to remember when I do eventually beat the Impossible Lair one day, I might save clip and be able to, like, save that entire video and maybe use it, like, at the end of a potential Let's Play. But God knows, I have no idea. But yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts on the Impossible Lair itself in that game. The rest of the game is fantastic, but the Impossible Lair is just such a complicated mess that I will beat one day, but who knows if I'll actually be able to catch it on video. I'm gonna give my cat a little pet. She's looking at me with that look in her eyes. I want pets. I want pets. I want you to pet me. Give me lots of loves. Ugh, God. You do so annoy me. Do you know, actually, a little bit of behind the scenes information, since I mentioned that 5-year anniversary video earlier on. The reason I didn't have my cat with me in that 5-year anniversary video, or the reason she wasn't with me, is because she wanted to go out right before I started recording it. I literally, before I came in the room and sat down and pressed record, I was in the kitchen, and she was eating, and she immediately after eating went straight to the door and begged to go out. So I was like, well, shit, okay, fine. And I let her out, and that was it really. I was going to bring her in the living room with me and sit her on my lap and you know, share her with you guys a bit, but unfortunately she just chose that time to leave. So maybe she knew, maybe she's camera shy, who knows. I have gotten her on camera, obviously. In fact, that was another thing I did since the new year started. I actually just randomly decided to record a clip of her laying on my bed. So that was a nice thought, you know. I saw her laying there and I thought, you know what? That's a perfect opportunity to record a short video, stick it on my channel, and there you go, for posterity. That's the animal that's been sitting in the background, meowing at me, sitting on my lap and sitting right behind me in most of my videos, just annoying the hell out of me. That's the one. So, yeah, she's the one and only, really. The unrivaled longest guest on my channel in my channel's history. In fact, you know, even before this channel, on the old channel, she was still in videos, just sitting in the background. You know, nothing's changed since my mum died. She's just always there, pretty much. Because what it was is she used to be my mum's cat, and you know, cats sort of imprint on a certain person and sort of spend most of their time around that person, or at least some cats do. This cat does. And she used to spend all her time around my mum, as much as she possibly could, when the other cats that we had in the past weren't also vying for her attention, or the dog that we had, or the many other animals that we had. You know, have I ever even talked about any of that? I'm not even sure if I have talked about that in detail. We used to have so many pets. I grew up very lucky, right? Because my granddad was a bird breeder, and our family was very pet heavy. So no matter what part of the family we were talking about, there were pets there. My dad's side of the family, there were a lot of dogs there in that family. A lot of them had dogs throughout the years. My mum's side of the family was, well, my granddad really, her dad. He was the animal man, you know, to me. He had every possible kind of animal a little boy could possibly ever dream of playing around with. We had ferrets, guinea pigs, turtles, foxes, rabbits, parrots, cockatiels, owls, pigeons, mice, rats, like chickens. I had a pet chicken, right? In fact, I had a couple of pet chickens. Ducks. I had a pet duck when I was a kid. I had an actual pet duck. I legitimately have a picture of me, which is a very rare picture that I will one day show because I have to prove this, of me holding a chicken. And it was my chicken. You know, it wasn't like I was at a farm or that it was borrowed from someone. It was my pet chicken. And I had 2 chickens, actually, and there's a picture of me with both of them in front of me. And there's also a picture of me holding a ferret as well, because I had a pet ferret. There's me with birds as well. I had pet budgies, canaries. I had a pet cockatiel, which used to bite me constantly. But, like, I don't know. I grew up really lucky, to be honest. I was a very lucky kid because I had a lot of animals that I could play around with. The duck was an interesting one. I'll tell you a funny story, since I'm on this topic now, and we're only halfway through this whole video, so I might as well start spanning out into some other topics. One of the pets I had, the duck, right? I think we got it from a local farm, right? My granddad bought it for me because I kept begging for a long time to have a pet duck, and I guess he finally realised it was the time for me to have one, so he got one for me. And I looked after that duck. I loved that duck to bits. But the duck was suffering from loneliness. It didn't have any other ducks, and when I wasn't around to look after it, it was obviously very lonely, because there weren't any other animals for it to play around with. So we went and got it a friend, a little baby chicken. And they became close friends, this chicken and this duck. And it was wonderful. It was lovely. They were really good friends, and they grew up together for a good period of time. Unfortunately, though, and I still don't know what happened, but the chicken died. Right, we're still very, very young, but it died, and the duck was absolutely distraught. You could tell it was a very upset duck. And at that point, I decided to take the duck home with me for a period of time. My parents actually let me keep it at home, and we had it at home for maybe a year, but it started to get really noisy, as ducks tend to, and the neighbours were complaining, so we had to take it back round to my granddad's, and after a while it just became too much of a problem keep looking after that duck along with any other animals that were around there. So we decided to take it back to the farm we bought it from, and give it back to them. So that's where he ended up. It was really unfortunate though that tale of the duck and the chicken. You know, it was a lovely cute little chicken as well. Such a spry little thing it was, running around chasing after me. There should be somewhere video or footage of me running around out that garden with that duck chasing me. If you've ever seen footage of like ducks chasing people, little ducklings, I've got footage just like that of me, and I don't know where it is, but one day I'll find it and maybe I'll share it. But yeah, there's the story of the chicken and the duck I owned as a kid. I used to be fascinated by swamp animals as well, because we had a swamp near where we live, and my granddad used to take me there on the weekends to go hunting for toads, tadpoles during the spring, slow worms, which were like these little sort of mini snakes. They were like little garden snakes, if you will. They weren't venomous or anything. In fact, they never even bit. They were very timid little creatures, but they were very difficult to find. They were really rare, and we tried to breed them, but it was really difficult to breed them. But I used to love catching those things because they were so hyper rare. It was satisfying to catch one because, you know, you were looking and looking and looking, sometimes for weeks and weeks, and then you'd finally find one and it'd be like, yes, I found one after all this time. You've been hiding from me, you little bastard. But yeah, I used to go hunting for those, along with, you know, frogs and toads, and we'd also catch fish from the swamp as well, and bring them back to my granddad's and put them in like a little mini pool we made. So this is another thing, right? I'm just telling you stories of my childhood now. I love it, actually. I haven't gotten to tell you any stories of my childhood really. So I'm just going to carry on. My granddad at one point had this giant pool in the back garden, which it was actually originally a swimming pool, but he decided to turn it into a pond. And he bought a bunch of big fish to put in this pond. And we used to put smaller fish in there. And at one point, I asked him if I could have my own little pool to put tadpoles in to watch them grow into frogs. So we built a little pool on the opposite side of the garden, which I do also have pictures of. I'm still waiting for my nan to find any pictures of the pool that used to be there, so that I can show this stuff off one day. Like this is me telling stories, but there are definitely images to back some of this stuff up, maybe even all of it. I just have to find some of it. So one day what I may just do is like maybe retell these stories, or maybe just like in a vlog sort of situation, I can sort of share some images and some like background to these stories, maybe, you know, in deeper detail. I mean, this is just a random fucking Forager video. Who actually is going to watch this and find that sort of information here? You know, at least it's out there. But if I ever have to repeat it, then it would probably be best repeated in a situation where it's a sort of actual vloggy thing, and I have, you know, some images, some videos, you know, some stuff where I can sort of share and just say like, yeah, this was my childhood, you know. So yeah, but anyway, I'll carry on what I was saying about the pool. My granddad had a pool which he turned into a pond, and then we built another little mini pool which wasn't an actual swimming pool. It was just a tiny pond that we built, and we used to put tadpoles in it to well, so I could watch them grow. And every single year for a good period of years, we would go over to the swamp and we would get a net, swoop up a bunch of tadpole eggs, and then bring them back to watch them hatch, slowly over time, of course. My granddad's garden was filled with life. just filled with it. We used to find all sorts of stuff in that garden. I mean, hell, I have a recent picture from a couple of years ago, right? My nan was moving stuff around the garden, and I was helping her. I lifted a rock, and there was a fucking lizard under the rock. I mean, seriously, how? The garden is barren. Like, I will take a picture of it, actually, if I ever get the chance to do this vlog thing that I've got the idea for, you know, so that I can show the difference between what it once was like and what it's like now. It's impossibly barren at this point. There's, like, nothing there now. In the years since my granddad died, which is, like, over 10 years ago, the garden's just sort of slowly withered. There's still plenty of plants growing and stuff, but like most of it is just the concrete foundations of all the sheds and everything that were there that kept the birds and everything. So but yeah, anyway, so a couple of years ago, sorting out the garden, lifted a rock and found a lizard. And it was a shy, timid little thing. I put it on my hand, I held it, and I took a couple pictures of it. So I've got those pictures to prove that it actually happened. And one day I will show those pictures. But it was such an adorable little thing. And I was so shocked that after all these years, there was still life like that in that garden. It's ridiculous. Oh, and even at some point last year in the summer, I was walking around at the back of the garden, and my nan has these water fountains, which she never got rid of, and they're constantly filled with rain. They don't work, but they're constantly filled up with rain. And one of them, I walked near it and I saw something move, and I looked in and realised it was a frog. So, I mean, it's shocking, really. Even with all the sheds removed and only the concrete foundations left, you know, barely anywhere that life could really hide and grow, there's still life in that garden, somehow. Although, you know, I shouldn't be surprised, because even in our garden there's been some life every now and then. I mean, did I tell you the story of Sonic the Hedgehog showed up in our back garden? That happened back when I was recording the Sonic the Hedgehog videos with Aaron, multi-classic gamer. This was like 2015 or 2016. I told this story in one of those gaming shenanigans videos because it happened right before the recording started. But there was a hedgehog that kept appearing in our garden for a small period of time, and it kept eating cat food out of the cat bowl. So yeah, and I've got video of that, actually. I've got actual video of it eating out of the cat bowl, and I was standing like a meter away from it and it wouldn't run. So no idea what that was about, but hey, as that was just another example of life coming near me for some reason, because that tends to happen to me somehow, some way. I have no idea how, but it did. But yeah, I mean, you know, these are the stories of my childhood. I had a very active childhood. You know, on top of going out to the swamp every weekend, my granddad would also take me to car boot sales, which, for those who don't know what those are the kind of large-scale versions of a garage sale, if you're American, where lots and lots of people come together in a field or a parking lot or something, you know, maybe 100, 200 people, and they pull tables out of their cars and a bunch of junk they want to sell, stick it all up, and just people can walk around and say, oh, how much for that, sort of thing. And there's lots of people in one place doing this instead of it being just one person doing it, like a garage sales. But we used to go to these every weekend, all the way up to pretty much maybe a year before my granddad died. And hold on, I got a message from someone. It could be important. No, it's just a YouTube message. So yeah, all the way up until about a year before my granddad died, pretty much. And up until that point, car boot sales were still okay-ish. It was sort of the earlier 2000s where it was still really good. But it slowly got worse and worse as the internet became a thing, because people started to sell their stuff online rather than bringing it to car boot sales. So you could still find some pretty decent stuff at car boot sales, but I have fond memories of finding like really cool stuff at car boot sales, and there are still things that I've kept from those car boot sales over the years as well. I mean, I've got one sitting up on my my shelf in front of me right now. It's a stuffed taxidermy bird. I can't actually remember what species it is, but it's a very tiny bird. I think it might be a wren. It's a very, very tiny little bird, but it's adorable, and it's in like this wooden box with a glass case on the front. And I might show that off someday. But yeah, it's just an example. One of my favourite birds, right? Since I mentioned that my granddad was a bird breeder, one of my favourite birds was the robin. In fact, one of my just as an extension of the story, my first ever email that I created, when I created an email address, was Bird Boy, right? I won't say the rest of the email, but the email was basically Bird Boy, and it was because I loved birds so much at the time. It was right before my granddad actually got ill and died, so it was about late 2008, early 2009. It might have been 2008 actually, but yeah, it might have been earlier 2008, but anyway, either way, yeah, it was called Bird Boy because I love birds so much. And the second address I made was also related to birds, Robin Redbreast, and that address I think is still active, possibly. I can't remember. I think the Bird Boy address is still active as well, actually. I do have access to the Bird Boy address still, even 12 years down the line. So I don't use it for anything, but the fact that I still have access to it is crazy after all these years. But it just goes to show how much I loved birds back then. And again, I repeat that the reason I said that is because I wanted to say what my favourite bird was, and it was Robin Redbreasts. So I have a few Robin Redbreast related items actually. In fact, the tea coaster that I've got my cup on right now, which, you know, my tea's warm at this point, but the coaster I have it sitting on is a little robin sitting on a branch of holly in a wintry setting. So yeah, it goes to show you how much I love robins. I've got a coaster that I drink off of that has one on it. I also have other items that have robins on it. Very few, mind you, but they are around, scattered about amongst all the other clutter that I own. I own so much clutter, honestly. It's ridiculous how much I own. I mean, like, the video I watched today, right? PewDiePie, he made a video talking about him getting robbed, and he spoke about the philosophies of Greek philosophers, right? What's the name of the guy? It was a guy who was like a homeless man, but he lived life in the simplest way possible, and even Alexander the Great was sort of, you know, very fond of him. You know, if I wasn't Alexander, I would be this guy. Very Greek name, let's put it that way. But like, that just makes me think about like the amount of materialism we have in the modern world. You know, we're so most of us at least are so fascinated with materialism. You know, we want to own things. We want to own valuable things. And even me, I've fallen into that trap majorly. I suppose not as major as some people, but I do own a lot of clutter. Like, I own so many video games, DVDs, random items that I've gotten over the many years in my life so far. I mean, most of the stuff that I've gotten more recently in the last 10 years is pretty much out front and center. Everything prior to that, like childhood stuff, is all sort of packed away for the most part. I do have a few things from my childhood sitting around in this room. I have an item that's been sitting on the shelf pretty much for 30 years. It's a skull, a ceramic skull, I think, and that was gotten from a car boot sale, I think, like 30 years ago. It was sitting in my nan's house for 20 years until I picked it up and took it, and now it's in my room. So, you know, just random items that have been around for a really, really long time. People do tend to keep things that mean something to them, but then there are people who sort of keep things that they feel have some sort of meaning, but don't really. Like, do I really need all these video games or all of these DVDs? You know, do I really need posters and figurines and collector's items? Do I really need any of this, you know? Not really, not for a fulfilling life, but this is what brings me happiness at the moment, and I feel like if that is the only thing that's going to bring me happiness for now, then that's something I should do. You know, I shouldn't deny the only thing that makes me happy just because it's not exactly healthy. You know, I mean, obviously there are people who would say, well, you know, look for other things that make you happy that are healthier. But that process takes a while. And, you know, it's something that I've been slowly working on over time, but it's not something that happens overnight. And so while that is in the works, you should also be able to do the things that make you happy that aren't very healthy, like, you know, begrudgingly allowing your materialistic views to control you a bit. it's not like I obsessively spend money on these things anyway. I always budget and make sure that I don't spend too much on things, you know. It's not like I don't fall prey sometimes, though, to, it's limited edition, so you need to buy it now. I do fall for that sometimes, and, it does kick me in the arse when it does get me, but I think a lot of people fall for that trap, and it's unfortunate because it's just a part of human nature. You know, we see something that is, limited, and we think, oh my god, we need that now, but it's not actually that important in the long run. And that's probably what like the most important part of that whole philosopher's style really was, that PewDiePie was talking about, is that it doesn't really matter all these materialistic things in the long run, because when you're dead, what really mattered? All these items, plastic, discs, does any of it really matter in the long run? Because when you're dead, it will get sold off and destroyed and otherwise, disposed of. Maybe a few choice items will be kept, passed down to family members and friends, but most of what you own is not going to remain anywhere near you, your immediate family, or even your extended family. Most of it will just disappear into the aether after you're gone. Just like you, really. Everything returns to dust. I think I've been watching too much Unus Annus. But yeah, back to something a little more sort of positive for the last sort of... Oh my god, we're actually at the last 15 minutes of this video now. Amazing. I haven't spoken, really any about the footage that we're watching at all. It's a good thing I said about, if you want to see this as a podcast, see it as a podcast, because it pretty much is a podcast at this point. But at least, there's also the footage in the background to show what happened during this hour session, just for posterity's sake, so that when the next session comes up, it's not just an immediate cut to, an hour's worth of play later. But anyway, man, what else is there to talk about? I mean, since I was talking about photos, I do have some of those photos sitting on my shelf right now. So let me pick those up, and maybe there's something else in there that I haven't thought of from my younger years that I could mention. Alternatively, I could just describe some of the photos to you that I sort of spoke about. Oh, okay. Let's see. There's a lot of photos in here. There's me in the garden holding one of my chickens. It's so lush. It's such a lush garden. There's so many trees and plants and greenery, covering over all these different sheds that contain birds. There's another one of me standing there amongst all of that crap, all the sheds. And there's another picture of me holding that chicken. And the shed next to me is the one that used to be a pool. There's a picture of me in the living room with one of my many, many pet birds. I believe that's a budgie in that cage. I can barely see it. But yeah, I imagine I was either just finished playing with that budgie or I was just about to take it out and let it have a little fly around. There's me with that chicken again, giving it a little pet. There's me and my granddad doing some work in the back garden, it seems. I think the focus of this image was more on the bird feeder, because we're not really the focus of the image there, but we are just in the background. And there's me with that chicken again, just sort of staring at it, and my granddad's in the background. And there's the picture of me holding one of my ferrets. And that was actually a banded ferret as well. They're quite rare. But I had one as a pet at one time, so there's me holding it. There's a picture of me with the chicken from before, but also the other chicken I owned, which was there was one that was black and white, and there was one that was completely ginger. So there's a picture of that banded ferret in its cage, but it's kind of a blurry picture. There is a picture of me holding something there. I have no idea what that is. There's a picture of me bobbing for apples. That must have been one of my birthdays. How about that? There's a picture of me with sunburn. This is a more recent picture of me playing in snow. A picture of me as a young child making a silly face I'm wearing a bebop jacket. That's cool. I look cool. Lots of pictures of me and my dad. Oh, there's me building a snowman after my granddad died. We built it on top of his grave one snowy Christmas after he died. That was pretty interesting. A pretty interesting afternoon. I just said to my brother, "Hey, do you want to go build a snowman?" And he said, "All right." And I said, "Let's go build it on Granddad's grave." How about that? I'm sure he'd enjoy that. I'm sure he'd have a good laugh. There's me with my other granddad and my other nan, and both of them together. There's the picture of the little pool that we used to put the tadpoles in. This is the one I will show you guys one day, for sure. I will definitely show you guys this one day, this picture. It's a bit blurry, but you can easily make out that it's a little, like, custom-made pool. It's got a bunch of, like, you know, leaves on top of the water that are usually there from, you know, algae and such. We used to bring it all back from the swamp just so that they would be comfortable living in there. We used to bring back buckets of this, like, dirty water just to fill this thing up and keep it filled. And there's me and my granddad and my nan. Oh, this picture. This is one that I wanted to show on video someday too. It's my the bar, as they called it, in my granddad's house. They had this bar in the living room, which was built back in like the 70s or the 80s, and it actually did used to have like alcohol that they could serve from it as well. They used to have these things in the back that they could put alcohol in, and they tug on them, and the alcohol would come out. It also had a tank in the front, which I never got to see because it was taken out before I was born, but it apparently had a lizard in it. It was like a heated tank that used to sit in the actual sort of bar, like in the front of it, and they covered it up, but because in this image it's not there, it's covered up. But I don't think there is any images of it existing. If there is, I'll show it off someday. But yeah, this bar is like covered in Elvis memorabilia. It's like the only real way that I could ever prove just how obsessive my granddad was of his fascination with Elvis. Because there's so much Elvis in this one image, it's actually ridiculous. There's actually a card on the shelf with 21 on it, and that's making me wonder who was 21 when this image was taken. There's also a card that says Mum. It's not exactly easy to figure out when these pictures were taken, especially with how blurry they are as well. There is an old jukebox sitting on the desk there too. Oh, there we go. That's a good image. There's an image of me here, standing on the street with a net and a bucket in hand. I'd imagine preparing to go to the swamp to gather tadpoles. Because if it wasn't tadpoles, then I would not have the net or the bucket, because I used to catch things with my hands if I wasn't catching tadpoles or fish in the swamp. So yeah, that's an interesting image. One day I may show that. Me and my granddad again. Where are we for time? 53 minutes. Okay, let's just whiz through these. I don't think there's any more pictures of me from those heady days. Oh, there's my cat playing in the snow. That's a cute image. There's our dog. There's our cat again. Lots of family photos. Nothing related to all these things I've been talking about with the garden in my granddad's back yard and all that sort of thing yet. Nah, I think we've gotten past all those images. There's me on the beach apparently. Me in a wig. Yeah, no, we've gotten past all those images now. If I ever get any more from my nan, because she's got thousands upon thousands of images, I will share them. I have actually asked her to get the black and white photos that she's got scanned, because she's got quite a few black and white photos of her older family, her parents and her grandparents and stuff like that, her extended family. She's got like a bunch of photos that she's put in her middle room, which are all black and white photos, which she's basically separated into like I think her mother's side of the family and her father's side of the family. So but like she's got so many pictures in there, and I'm not allowed any of them. I'm not allowed any of those pictures. She basically told me the only picture I'm allowed to have, because I asked for it many years ago, is there's a picture that's been hanging up in the living room since before I was born, which is a picture of my granddad back when he was 18. And there are no pictures of him from before he was like 50. There are none. He burned them and ripped them all up. He hated how he looked when he was younger, but for some reason he kept that one image of himself when he was 18, and it's been sitting up on the wall for so long, decades. And I said to my nan many years ago, I said, like, I want that picture, like, whenever your time comes, because she says this to me, you know, this isn't like a horrible thing, you know, I'm not like, oh, I hope you die quickly, woman, you know, or anything like that. She says to me, you know, I'll live a long time, and I say, oh, I hope so, you know, but when you do have to go, you know, when you do have to go, she usually says when I have to go home, but I say, yeah, when you do have to go home, as it were, I want that picture. If any picture in this house could be mine, I want that one to be mine. Because I loved my granddad to bits. His image has been shattered a bit since he died, because there were a lot of things he did that I didn't know about. But I still have fond memories of him and the things we did together and the things that he allowed me to do. Going to the swamp, the car boot sales, owning a bunch of animals. There were lots of fond memories I had. And so I wanted that picture of him, the only picture of him from when he was really, really young that's left. And so she said I could. So when the time comes, that will be mine. And perhaps I will even show that picture off. But yeah, she has many other pictures, which I imagine are hidden away in her albums of me in the garden and doing whatever else, playing with birds and all that sort of thing. I have asked her to give them to me if she finds them, but I imagine she hasn't looked very much at this point. But anyway, we're reaching the end of the session. I've had a good time talking about my childhood, about things I used to do. It's always fun sharing memories, and I don't think I've ever actually gotten to share those memories properly before, so it's nice that I've had an opportunity to. I reckon now that we've reached the end of this video, I think I've got a name for this video now. I think we're going to call this the podcast episode. I think it's perfect. The podcast episode. It's just a podcast. I'm just talking about my life, about events in my life, you know, just a few interesting tidbits, really. And I think that's great. I think if anybody is interested, they can listen. If not, whatever, you know. It's not like I've ever actually cared if people listen to my rants or not in my videos, because I don't do this for them. I do this for myself. This is all posterity anyway. If I ever somehow forgot any of this stuff, like if I ever got amnesia or something, or had like a brain injury that made me forget a bunch of stuff, then at least this would all be on video, you know. Hopefully, if YouTube doesn't ever delete my channel or my videos, then I could come back here and I could use these as a way to remind myself of these things. But yeah, anyway, I think that's pretty much a wrap on this video. Like I said at the beginning of this, the next video will be back to normal, back down to edited under about 20 minutes or so from an hour session. The video after that, which is the last one I recorded, is just a raw session, but only 22 minutes long. And then that's it. That's all I've recorded of Forager. Outside of that, I've got to do the last Far Cry 5 multiplayer video. And I'm thinking about possibly carrying on with the Just Cause 3 live streams. Because I know I've spoken a lot about my life and stuff today, but I really enjoy playing Just Cause 3. It's a really like mindless game, and even if I don't really have much to talk about, it's great to just chill, play a really simple game, and you know, have a little bit of a laugh. Of course, I need to be in the right mood for it usually, and I really haven't been for a while, so I'll have to see how I feel. But maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. But yeah, we're about a minute away now. That was fun. I really enjoyed that. In terms of like worldly events, before we go, there is apparently, well, I shouldn't say apparently, there is currently a virus spreading across the globe. I am not exactly feeling very good about that. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of things, and none of them are good. I don't usually believe anything that the mainstream media says, to be fair. But there is a lot of information leaking out from place to place as the weeks go by, and none of it sounds good. So we'll have to see how that pans out. I might be dead by next month, who knows? By the end of this month, I mean. But yeah, until then, that's it. Way to end the video off with a fucking warning about a virus that might kill everyone. How about that? Well done, Robbie. Way to worry everybody. Jesus Christ. Ugh. Fucking hell. See you guys next time. Bye.